Hello. Welcome to my channel. My name is Lynn, and I don't know that I've been using my multi-cinch in any videos. I've definitely used it. I just don't know if I have any videos yet. So I thought I would pull it out and actually present a video where I'm using it. Today I'm going to make a mini journal. This was inspired by Beth at the Not Too Shabby Shop Enjoy This Life virtual retreat just this past September, and she showed us how to make a gratitude journal. I'm going to use the Coptic hole punch. That is one of the different options that you can get for the multi-cinch. Now, I'm not going to actually do Coptic stitch binding because Coptic stitch binding is where you have multiple signatures that you stack one on top of another, and there's a special stitch where you can create this beautiful stitch pattern on the outside of your notebook by stitching together those stacks. And instead, what I am really just using this for is to punch the holes in this really simple journal more of a mini journal. It's pretty small. And it's going to give me a way to punch the holes through the spine or through the fold pretty easy and effortlessly, as opposed to having to use something like an awl and actually poking through. And plus, on top of that, because of how consistently you can punch, I'm guaranteed that all of my holes are going to line up beautifully. So for this project, what I'm going to need is 3 sheets of 6x6 pattern paper. This is from Pink Halloween by Not Too Shabby. I've got an upholstery needle, which has a large eye, some embroidery floss. This isn't super expensive stuff. And then for my page signatures, I'm just using some plain old copy paper, nothing special. But what I did was I used the same dimensions that Beth gave us. So folded, this measures 5.5 tall by 4 inches wide. So from a single sheet of US letter paper, just cut it down to 8 by 11. Cut that in half on the 11-inch edge at 5.5, and then just fold in half. So I'm going to set everything aside. We're going to work on the cover first because the cover needs a little bit of drying time. And I conceptually remember what Beth did, but I don't exactly remember the dimensions and measurements that she gave us. So what I'm going to do is I will show you how to figure it out for yourself so that if you are making a different size journal, you can adapt it to whatever you want. And my video today is part of a collaboration hub. So if you're looking for more junk journal ideas, then expand the description box below and you'll see a list of all of the various designers who are part of this collaboration. And as well, there's a playlist where we've been collecting Halloween projects for the past 2 months. 2 weeks, sorry. We're on week 3, and this week we are all sharing junk journaling or journaling ideas. So if you want to catch up with the previous 2 weeks, then all of those videos will also be on that playlist, and you'll see cards, tags, and folio ideas. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I've decided what will be my front cover design and which will be my back cover design. These 2 panels of 6x6 paper, they're going to get glued together and they're going to overlap a little bit. I don't know exactly how much right now, so all I'm going to do is put a line of dry adhesive tape along the outside edges of the side that will overlap with each other. So for my back cover, it's going to be the left side. For my front cover, it's going to be the right side. And I'll just burnish those lines of adhesive tape really well. Now, it's going to look a little something like this. I just want to double check that everything looks the way it should. At the moment, we're looking at it from the inside. And what I want to do is figure out how wide does this need to be. So if I take the back cover, push it all the way to the right, and then I look at my left cover and I line that up at 8.5. The center point of 8.5 is 4.25. So that's going to be where the fold is, and I can preview how my page signature looks inside that cover. And if that looks okay to you, then you can stick with that. But I know that because all of these pages are going to get kind of stacked together and nested together, it tends to push things out a little bit. So I'm going to give myself a little bit more wiggle room, and instead I'm going to line up that left edge of my front cover at 8 3/4 of an inch wide. So when these two sheets of 6x6 pattern paper are glued together, combined, they will measure 8 3/4 of an inch wide by 6 inches tall. And I just peeled off one of the liners just to get that stuck down. And then I'm going to put some liquid adhesive in between to really make sure that this is a nice, strong stick and that it's nice and permanently glued together as well. And then I'll peel off that other liner. I like having dry adhesive all the way to the edge. It's a little bit less messy. I don't have to worry about the liquid glue oozing out. And as well, it's going to hold everything there while I continue to work on my project. But really, I'm going to set this aside so it has plenty of time to dry, just as it is. We're not going to score this and fold it just yet. If you want to watch Beth's original workshop tutorial, she actually showed how to turn that overlap. Instead of gluing it completely shut, she actually turned it into a pocket. So I think that's kind of cool. That's a really neat idea. And I want to keep this one nice and simple so that it's easy to do. But I might try this again and do the pocket version as well, because I think that might be kind of nifty. This is the third sheet of 6x6 pattern paper, and this is going to be a little bit of just like a divider so that you have something to separate out your pages a little bit. And as well, you could decorate this, you could make it be a little bit of a dashboard, for example, and have your to-do list or whatever other notes that you want right onto this divider. So I think there's a lot of things that you could do with that might make it a little bit fun and functional. So that's really cool. To make this, it's really easy. You just need to score this in half at 3 inches. And I rounded the corners of this as well. So that's going to be one of the signatures that gets sewn in. And so at this point, I pretty much have everything ready. I just need to start to bind or punch the holes for the binding. Now, I mentioned that the holes that I'm using with the multi-cinch it's actually the Coptic stitch holes. And with this, normally you would use it to punch the holes through your signatures, and as well you would use this to punch the hole through your cover if you were to do actual Coptic stitch binding. But we just need to punch the holes for our signatures, because that little guardrail that I inserted will push, will make it so that when you put your page signatures in, it lines it up with the punch so that it punches exactly on your score line or on that fold, which is perfect because instead of having to manually punch those holes, you can just use this. Now, what I'm going to do is I've got this bit of washi on the base here, and instead of using the guide that you would normally use if you're going to do Coptic stitch binding, I'm going to use the centering mark, because if you look at this, my divider and the cover as well, they are 6 inches tall, whereas my page signatures are only 5.5 inches tall. So if I started to punch the holes, so let's say it was like this, right? If I used it the way it's designed, everything would be flush to the bottom of the page. And you would see that the page signature isn't going to be centered within the cover. It's not going to be centered within that divider as well. So that's why I'm not using the guide. If all of your pages and all of your signatures and the cover and everything was the same height, then you could go that route and you would be just fine. But I want to center my holes so that when they all line up, then my copy paper pages will be perfectly centered within the cover. So what I did was I put a pencil mark at the halfway point, and I lined that pencil mark up with the washi tape. The washi tape is where the centering mark is on the holes. So there you can see, I always like to do a test page when I do anything with the cinch. That way you have a sample and you can make sure that everything looks the way that you expect. But now that I've got that template, what I can start to do is punch everything else. So I've got my signature here. This is just 5 sheets of paper folded in half. And then I'm going to actually punch this whole stack, but I'm going to put my template right on top of that stack, push everything in together, really make sure that, top and bottom, everything's lined up with my template. And my template has the pencil mark. So I can line that pencil mark up with my washi. And then before I go to punch, although technically you could probably leave your template in there, but I just pulled it out and then I'm going to punch. So now when I punch, I've got a series of holes right on that fold, right on the spine, and it's perfectly centered and ready to go. So much easier than using a pokey tool to make all of those individual holes. And really, for the type of stitching that Beth showed in her workshop, you only really needed to punch 2 holes through each signature. But I find that it's really hard on my hands if I try to punch more than 2 or 3 pages at a time. And so with this, I can punch a hole, this little stack, this entire signature, and it's very effortless. So I've got a second stack. Again, this is 5 sheets of copy paper folded in half. And then I've got my template stacked right on top, lining up the pencil mark, which is the halfway mark of my page signature, and lining up that with the washi tape, which marks the halfway point of where the holes are punched. I'm going to pull down the lever, punch it, and I've got another set of holes. So that's all of my page signatures punched. And now we can punch our divider. So again, this divider, it does not measure the same height as our pages. It's actually 6 inches tall. So what I want to do is find the center. So halfway of 6 is 3. So I want to put a pencil mark at 3 inches. And I'm going to do the exact same thing as I did before. I am going to line up that pencil mark with my bit of washi. And then I am going to punch. And that makes sure that the row of holes that get punched are going to be centered, so that when I sew this together with my page signatures, the pages will be centered from within that as well. So you can see I've got my needle going through it, so that lines up, and I can add the other page signature behind this because that's pretty much the order that I'm going to put things in. And look at how nicely centered that is. Really easy, really fast. If you like to make a lot of these, they're great for gifts too. If you're not big into Halloween, you could make these as little Christmas gifts as well, and just use maybe some holiday papers. I think that would be really fun. And it's just a really easy, fast way. If you have the cinch, you can use the Coptic hole punch for more than just Coptic binding. If you're still kind of working your way up to doing an actual proper Coptic stitch, this is just a nice simple stitching. So now we're looking at our cover, and I am going to score this in half. And half of 8 3/4 is 4 3/8. So I'm scoring at 4 3/8. I scored once with the scoring tool that came on with my scoreboard, but I'm gonna score it a second time with my ball stylus because I feel like my ball stylus can get a little bit of a deeper score line, and this is scoring and folding through 2 layers of cardstock. So it's pretty thick. And so you just want to give yourself a nice deep score line so that it's just a little bit easier to fold that when you start to get everything together. And so that's a little preview of everything kind of stacked together. Now all of the holes have been punched through, everything but the cover. So now I just need to fold this and punch through the cover. So again, I'm gonna find the center point of this cover piece, which is 3 inches. I'm gonna make a little bit of a pencil mark there, and then put this through. Make sure to push it all the way to the back, and then give it a good punch once everything is nice and centered. And this is the other reason why the cinch is really great for this, because at this point you're going through 4 layers of pattern paper, because it's 2 layers doubled up, and then folded, it gets punched, or the hole gets punched through all of those layers. So that's everything punched out, and now all we need to do is sew all of these signatures together. So I'm not using anything too fancy. You could get some really nice strong wax thread for bookbinding, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to use embroidery floss. This isn't even really super good, expensive embroidery floss. And I wasn't too sure how much I needed, and I ended up unspooling a lot more than what I needed. But what I'm going to do is, because this is not super special thread, I am doubling up. So when I sew this, I'm going to be sewing 2 lengths, or double the thread. That should help to make it a little bit stronger. And I cut a section that is about right about if the thread is doubled, then I doubled it again, and that's more than what you need. So you could start there if you don't mind having a little bit extra, because the stitching, it really, to stitch through the 4 holes, it's really not the full length of the journal. It ends up only being like maybe 3 inches. So that's why you don't really need as long of a stretch as what I initially pulled out. To strengthen my embroidery floss, though, all I did was I actually ran this through a block of wax. And what that does is it helps to reduce the threads, the fibers of your thread. It helps to kind of mat that down, and it just helps also make it a little bit stronger. And so if you're like me and you don't have anything super special, maybe just pick up a small block of wax, and you can do what I did, just run it through your wax a couple of times, and that helps to make it easier to sew, for one, because now I've got my doubled up thread, but it almost looks like it's a single piece. So starting from the inside, I just picked one end, and I pushed it through all of my signatures in the order that I want it in. From the inside out, I go down 1 hole, push it through to the center again, go down 1 hole. This is like the simplest stitching ever. And then we're on the outside, I go down 1 hole, and then I push my needle back towards the inside of my journal. And because this was punched by the multi-cinch, everything is going to line up. It just might be a little bit askew, so just make sure that everything is straight. Now you do want to make sure that your threads are nice and taut, so make sure to maybe pull these and make sure there's not a lot of slack. You don't want to pull it so much that your paper's buckling. You just don't want to see any gaps. Now, if you want, you could tie those ends together, but I'm actually going to come all the way back again so that I have a solid line of thread. So we're on the inside. I'm going to go traveling back up, go to the outside, and that's going to fill in the gap there. Traveling back up 1 hole, I'm going to push my needle into the center on the inside. And then now I'm right back at the top where I have the end that started the whole stitching, and now I can tie these 2 ends together, and that completes the line of stitching that is visible on the inside, and the line of stitching is going to be a nice solid line from the outside as well. Now I chose black because I knew that I would be using black as the pattern paper. So on the outside, you can really barely see the lines, which I like. But if you want the stitching to look like an accent, to have it actually look like a feature, then you could use maybe a contrasting color. I thought about using pink, but ultimately I went with black so that it actually is a little bit more hidden, though it does make it more noticeable on the inside against the white. So, you know, it's up to you what you prefer. I figure on the outside, that's where it's going to be most aesthetically, you know, pleasing, where the inside, I'm going to be the only one who looks at the inside. So I don't mind if I can see the black thread there. So here's a final look. All I did was I just added a little bit of ephemera to the front of this. Super cute little Halloween cat. You could totally decorate the inside some more if you want. You could add some pockets to the covers. You could add some a bit of stamping even on some of these pages if you wanted to decorate them a little bit, personalize them a little bit. Same with the divider pieces. You could turn those into dashboards, maybe put some solid color cardstock so that you can write lists or notes there. Really, really fabulous, easy journal to put together. Had a lot of fun making this. Thanks for catching my video today, and be sure to expand that description box so that you can see all of the other designers who are part of this collaboration. And if you want to check out other junk journaling or journaling ideas, then check out the collaboration playlist. There's a link to that in the description box as well. Thanks again, and until next time, happy crafting and have a fabulous day. Bye.